Hey, good morning. Yesterday we were doing scatter plots, and several people asked me some questions about this last problem on the back page there. So I wanted to just talk about it a little bit because I agree it was a little weird because they're forcing me to draw a trend line. And I would say on this one, as I look at my data here, there really is no correlation. So you probably wrote no correlation here. And so then they said, well, you need to draw a trend line. So this is probably one of the only cases that, because they're forcing me to answer more questions, as I look at it, all my dots on this person that are drinking coffee, they all seem to be within this area here. They're all over the place. And so if I was forced to draw a trend line on this one, I would probably draw my trend line, which I told you hardly ever do we do a horizontal line, but let me see if I can get this. I'd probably draw a trend line right down the middle, being a horizontal line like this. And then I can kind of say, okay, well, I'd even move it down just a tiny bit. Let me redo it one more time here. Sorry. Because I want my data to be kind of in the middle here. So I'd probably do it right. Well, even that's a little low now. Doggone it. I'll get this thing done. Anyhow, now one of my dots is gone. It's kind of hard. See, I put it on there. Let's see if I can do the back here and get my dot back. There it is. So let's try this again. Last time I would attempt it. This is why it's nice to have a ruler. Yeah, did it again. Maybe I can move this. Anyhow, my trend line, I want to draw it in there. You'll know it's a straight line. It'd be like right in here. You always want to draw your trend line out past the edge of the graph. So based on your trend line, predict 2007. Well, that'd be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 would be out here. So again, you go up to your trend line, and I would say about 25 gallons per person, somewhere around there. Now, how confident am I? I'm not very confident because they're like all over the place between like 20, almost 24 to 27 up here. So they're all over the place. But because they're forcing me to, I would probably say that would probably be the best answer on that. Okay? I hope you are grading your papers, and then the ones that you miss, you're kind of looking at my work there and seeing how I did it. On this paper here today, it's very important that when you, first of all, you hear on this, you hope you've said negative correlation, and you use that word correlation because correlation means a group of dots. Okay, so make sure you write that. Pay particular attention when you explain that the first one should always say increases, like we talked about yesterday in the video, if it's a correlation. Guess I can't remember what I wanted else to talk about on this one. All right, so let's go to today's. Today's is going to be a very, very interesting formula that we're going to use. But here's your warm-up. You're definitely going to need a calculator today. So make sure you have your calculator. Go find it, something. We got some really crazy numbers to multiply today, and we want to do it quick and efficient. I already have the warm-up answers on the next page here, so pause your video, get your calculator, do these 5 problems, and then come back. All right, so I got constant for the first one, 16.4. If you're not getting 16.4, you probably forgot that a minus equals a plus. I have that same thing over here. Okay, so make sure your minus is a plus. All right, negative 15 and 63. All right, so today we're going to do arithmetic sequences, patterns and numbers, and we're going to come up with a rule that will help us, and we're going to call it the explicit rule. There are 2 rules for arithmetic sequence. We're going to do the explicit one first, it's called. And so when I came down to Arizona, we don't have lightning very often, but somebody said, hey, here's this deal. You can tell how far the thunderstorm is away by using just listening to the thunder and then looking at the lightning strike and counting how many seconds it is from the time the lightning strikes. You can kind of tell how far it is away. And so here's kind of a sequence here, if the time is 1 second, it's 0.2 centimeters away. So if I see lightning and I count to 3 seconds, well, then it's like almost a little over half a mile away. And so I was kind of impressed by that I can tell how far a thunderstorm is away. So when we list these times, which this is still a function, not only that, it's a linear function because I'm going up by the same amount every time. On today's math, we want to kind of find out what we call a difference. So how did I go from 0.2 to 0.4, 0.4 to 0.6, 0.6 to 0.8? I'm adding 2/10 to every number. And so we call this our difference. We're going to need our differences today. So, and that also, if the numbers are the same, we call that arithmetic sequence. Okay, we have a common difference there. It's 0.2 all the way up. So now watch here. We have some notation today that we got to kind of understand. A lot of times in arithmetic notation, you'll see the letter A, lowercase a's being used. And when we say something like a to the 9th, we put a little 9 down here. We call it a subscript. Okay, and so that would be read as a to the 9th. And so we're going to use that to find a term in our sequence today. And we're going to do that by looking at this pattern right here. Oh, wait, sorry. I think that might be a little bit out of order. Let's talk about arithmetic sequences, and then we'll talk about that a sub 9 up there. I think that got chopped up and a little bit out of order there. We'll get to it. So here's what I do. Here's our number sequence here. We went from 12 to 8 to 4 to 0, ... means forever, or continued, so on. Same pattern. So I like to do it this way. How did I go from 8 to 12? I went down 4. From 8 to 4, I went down another 4, and I went down another 4. So my difference is a negative 4. Now the directions say if it is arithmetic sequence, we determine, is it arithmetic sequence? We say yes it is. And then they said, well, find the next 3 terms. Well, if I take 0 and take away 4, my next term is going to be a negative 4. Then I'll have a negative 8 and a negative 12. Nice and easy. Okay, so my difference is, and usually we notate that as a d equals negative 4. Now it has to happen 3 times, so that's why they'll always give us 4 numbers to show us a pattern here. Okay, we have to have the difference happen at a minimum of 3 times. Here looks like I went up by 3, and then here it looks like I went up by 5. So not a arithmetic sequence. Because I have a 3 and a 5, and I can just stop there. I can't tell what the next 3 numbers are. So this might be a geometric sequence or something else, but I for sure know it's not an arithmetic sequence. All right, we got some fractions here, but it's an easy fraction. You try it, pause your video, and I have my answers on the next page, so pause your video. All right, if you're back, this is the answer I got. It looked to me like we were going up by 2/4 every time. So my difference was 2/4 or a half. I left it as 2/4 just so I could do the pattern here. So then I add 2/4 to 3/4, got 5/4, but we want to put them into reduced form. And then I add 7/4, which is the same as 1 3/4, and then I got 9/4. 4 goes into 9 2 times, and I have a 4th left over. I just said this wasn't. So I got a negative 4 minus 2, so it looks like I added 2 to get there. And then here, it looks like from negative 2 up to 1, I'd have to add a 3. So that's not an arithmetic sequence. Now, this is not in your notes, so don't panic, but we were talking about that a sub 1, a sub 2, or a sub 9th earlier. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look for this pattern here. And so, first of all, these are positions of numbers here. This is going to help us figure a pattern out. First position, second position, third, and fourth, and so on. Now, when we write it, we write a sub 1. That means what's the number in the first position? That's how we read that. If I see a sub 2, that means, okay, the second number in my arithmetic sequence is this number. Okay, so that's what this is. Now, when we don't, or we want to subscribe or write a formula for it, we'll say a sub n. Now, we can pick whatever number we want. We can say, hey, I want to know what the 21st term is, so then I would write a sub 21. That means find the 21st term. Okay? All right. So the other thing is what's a sub 1? That's going to be very, very handy. A sub 1 means what's my first term? Well, my first term in this case is a 3. Okay? Sometimes I'll say, okay, your a sub 1 is 3, and then find the 21st. That means we want to find that number based on the pattern. Now, kind of watch this. This is kind of confusing. But looking at that number pattern up there, if I look at the first term, which is this guy, my answer is a 3. No big deal. If I want the second term, well, I took the first number, which was 3, and it looks like we're going up by 2s, right? So we added 2 to that. So this 1 right here, I took the first term, and I multiplied it by 2, and 2 times 1 is 5. 2 times 2 is 2, plus 3 is 5. Hang in there with me for a little bit, because this is confusing. All right, so if I want the third term, well, I went up another 2. And so now I got this 2 and this 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus my first term is 7. I got 7 for the first. So we start to see this pattern here that if I take my difference, which is always 2, I'm going up by 2s, but I want to multiply it by the number I want minus 1. Because look I want the third term, and I multiplied it by 2. So if I took the third term and minus 1, I get 2. If I want the fourth term, I took the first one, because it's already right there. So 4 minus 1 is 3. And I multiply that by 2, and I get it mathematically. And so if I want the 109th term, well, I don't want to keep counting by 2s all the way out to the 109th. I want to use a formula. So I took the number that I want, and I subtracted 1 from it. That's the pattern here. If I want the second term, back up here, I took 2 minus 1, and I got that number. If I want the third term, I took 3 minus 2, 3 minus 1, and I got 2. So this takes a little bit of practice. I know this is a little confusing. So here's the way this works. Please write these notes. Actually, I think I have a space right here. Here's our rule. Let's write some notes here for what this means. This guy right here, a sub n, that's the number position you want. These are very important notes to take. A sub 1 means first number in our sequence. This guy right here in parentheses is n. Notice that the n here and the end here are the same. Is the number we want. Minus 1. It's always going to be the number we want minus 1. And then our very last thing is this d here. That's our difference. Now we're going to use this rule, and eventually, hopefully, we'll start to memorize this if we use this enough. For example here, they want to know what the 22nd term is. Now, using that formula, we want to write a sub 22. That's what we want. A sub 22. That's the number we want. Before we can even begin, we always have to find our difference. Make sure it's an arithmetic sequence. To go from 5 to 2, I went down 3. To go down from 2 to negative 1, I went down another 3. From negative 1 down to negative 4, I missed another 3. So my difference is a negative 3. We have to know that, and we have to know the first term. So let's denote it there. D equals negative 3. Now let's go up to our formula here. I have a sub 1, or sub 22, because that's the number I want, equals first number in my sequence, well, that's right here, 5, plus the number I want, which is 22, minus 1 times my difference. Now I've done everything and put it in the right place. Order of operations says I got to do my parentheses. So this becomes 21 times minus 3. I'm going to put parentheses around it so I know I'm multiplying that. So now 21 times minus 3, and signs are extremely important. I get a minus 63 here. So now I have a 5 minus a 63. You can put a plus minus, but that kind of sounds weird. In algebra, we're always adding. So I'm just going to put a minus 63. And if I do a 63 plus, negative 63 plus 5, I get a negative 58. So now final answer has to be denoted that way. A sub 22, so that means the 22nd number is a negative 58. Got to know what these numbers mean. A sub 1, what does that mean? That means my first term. I need to know that in order to use the formula. What's D mean? My difference. So now they want me to use the formula finding the 15th term. So I say A sub 15 equals, formula says what's my first number in the sequence? Well, they told us that. Plus the number I want minus 1. Now some kids will just put that and look at the formula and say, okay, 15 minus 1 is 14. Instead of writing it out, times my difference. All right, 14 times 3 is 42. So now I have 7 plus 42, and if I add 7 to that, I get 49. Final answer, write it in proper format, A sub 15 equals 49. All right, take some practice. Start working on memorizing that formula. It's not really that hard. Your first number plus the number I want minus 1 times my difference. I have it written here, so you give it a try. I want to find the 60th term. We don't want to. Let's see what it is. From 11 down to 5. I'm going down by 6, it looks like. Going down by 6. Going down by 6. So my difference is a negative 6. I need to know what my first number is, 11. So I'll get you started on writing this one. I want A sub 60 equals my first number plus the number I want, 60 minus 1. So I'm just going to write 59 in there, times my difference. All right, finish that mathematical problem out. Do 2B. I have the answers on the next page, so let's see how we did. Pause your video. Okay, so if you're back, I got a negative 343 for my first one. And there's my work. And then A sub 12 on the other one, they just told me A sub 1 is 4.2 and D is 1.4, and I got a 19.6. Okay, so again, work on memorizing that formula. I write it on the board in my classroom for a little bit, and then I'll erase it after we've been practicing it for a while. So here we go. Here's a word problem, real life problems here. The odometer, so that's a little thing that's like in your car that tells you how many miles you've driven on your car. It currently reads 60,473 on day 1. Every day the car is driven 54 miles. If this pattern continues, what's the odometer reading on the 20th day? I don't want to write 60,473 plus 54, get that number, plus 54, plus 54, plus 54, and do that 20 times. Takes too long. So let's use the formula. The formula says, what number do we want? We want the 20th day, so we say a sub 20 equals, what's the original first number in my sequence? Well, it's going to be the 60,473 plus the number I want minus 1. The number I want is 20, so if I take 20 and subtract 1, now my difference, they told me I'm going plus 54 miles every day, so I want to take it and times 54. So if I do 54 times 19, I get, no, that can't be right. 54 times 19, I get 1,026. Whoops. Comma goes there. So now I need to add the original. So I got that number in my calculator, so I'm just going to add 60,473. And I'm getting a sub 20 equals 61,499. So now we have to answer word problems with word answers. Something along the lines, on the 20th day, the odometer will read 61,499 miles. All right, this is the answer. So on your practice sheet today, when you submit it into Google Forms, just give me the 61,499 with the comma, okay? We'll assume that you put on the 20th day and all this in words, okay? I'm trying to make your Google form that you can see your answers and see how you did. All right, so here's the you try it. Pause the video and then restart it when you're done, and I have my answer on the next page. Okay, welcome back. So here's what I got. I like to keep track of things. So my first number was 2,000. My difference was dropping off a negative, or 250 pounds. So I hope you had a negative 250 there. Here I had the number I wanted, 6 minus 1, so I put a 5 there. And I did all my math work, and I got 750 pounds. The number that you get has to be less than, because you're dropping off 250 pounds every load. And so if you didn't use the minus 250, which happens often, well, then that doesn't make a reasonable answer. And your sixth delivery, you have more weight than you started with. So something's awry. Okay? All right. So on your Google form today, I want to try getting it, but I have some papers to grade from yesterday because I had some meetings. So I want to try to get the Google form up as soon as possible for you to put your answers in, but it might not be until like about noontime. So with that, just know that we have a test coming up on Tuesday all about functions, domains, ranges, scatter plots, and now arithmetic sequences. All right. So have a good day.